My name's Paul Chang.
My name is Ed Holder.
Hi, I'm Dan Leonard.
It's Jordan Minter here.
My name is Paul Pilato.
My name's Sean O'Connell, and I'm running to be London's next mayor.
It's like cigarette smoking. You know, you have the contaminated lung, and you put it on the cigarette package, saying these are the bad things why you shouldn't smoke. Education is a big thing. We have to broadcast to the people, to the citizens, in all mediums to say, respect your fellow person. That's all we can ask for, is give them respect. And if we push that message through and present it in such a way that it makes sense to people, I think everybody wants to treat each other civilly, safely. I don't think anybody wants to be a sexual predator, but you got to educate that.
You know, the timing of your question is interesting because what we have coming up is the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, and sponsored by the London Abused Women's Centre. I've been part of that since its first days to increase awareness. So the first thing is increasing awareness, I think, and I think we've seen some strides where people are confident, more confident at least, in telling. So don't ask, don't tell is no longer, that's passé. And we have to have an environment where people are comfortable and calling people out for inappropriate activities. And inappropriate activities can be very blatant and sometimes not so blatant. And what we have to do is ensure that we maintain an atmosphere here in this community, and it's a great community, but to ensure that we have the ability to have a safe place for people. And it's not just shelters; those are important. And there's a great facility in London called My Sister's Place, and I've been a strong sponsor and supporter of My Sister's Place for many years. And the work that they do to give people a safe haven, sometimes a meal, sometimes a place to talk, those are important things. So you have to encourage an atmosphere where people can come forward safely. We're seeing more of it. I think the Me Too movement, I think, has made some very positive strides, because what it does is it sends a messaging out there to say, you know what, we're mad as hell, we're not going to take it anymore. And I think that's how it should be.
That's a big one. The Public Health Board is involved in some programs with that, rape culture and generally. It's in the media now with the Me Too movement. The latest one now is some high-level CBS people are losing their jobs over it. I was posting some things there about time's up for male chauvinist pigs. Some of these guys have gotten away with far too long. So we need to make a concerted effort because, let's be honest, a lot of sexual assault and rape, to be quite blunt, is not reported because nothing is done. Even in the past, when it was reported, the police don't follow up on it. Charges are not pressed. Even if it goes to the courts, the punishments were relatively light. How many people are in jail because of sexual assault and rape? So we have a problem with rape culture in general, so we need to step forward. Not only women, but men need to acknowledge that this is going on, and we need to make a sea change. We need to redirect the river of the culture so that attitudes change. Attitudes are the hardest thing to change. And we need to acknowledge, first of all, what's going on. The placards in the street for the protesters, yes means yes, no means no. Public education, consent, consensus, and coercion. These things are not known by everyone. Even judges don't understand that. We have some judges who are saying some bizarre things. If they're partly drunk, that's implied consent. These are judges on the bench. They should know better. So we need to educate the community, the legal profession, police. They need to be doing a better job, and we need to get the message out that these things are no longer acceptable. Not just the young people in the colleges, but also all the way up. And so the Public Health Board is making some initiations in that direction, some educational programs. City Hall needs to do more with the people that work at City Hall, and the message needs to come through. People like you in broadcasting can do some more with your own friends on campus. And it's one of those things that needs to be done bits and pieces here and there. We need to come together as a community, young people and older people, to get these messages out that the things that we've been doing up until now are not right. They're not going in the right direction. Women have been mistreated, and it needs to stop.
Well, Rob Ford is kind of undoing some great strides that we had going in this. In the sex ed curriculum in Ontario, we were teaching about consent. That's paramount in these situations. If you're not teaching the kids early about that, there's not much we can do. It should be an ongoing thing. Consent should be drilled into your heads. There should be, from what I understand, there is a zero tolerance policy in place in both our post-secondary spots here in town. That has to be hammered home. Maybe it's a seminar at the first week of school. Maybe it's one at the end of school, midterms. You can't stress it enough. The frat guy, excuse. That's thinking like the 1950s. You can't just say, oh well, we were at a party and whatever. There's no excuse. So we've got to teach it early, and we've got to teach it often.
Sexual violence in London is a very difficult challenge to address. Part of the problem stems from the fact that most of this is domestic abuse, not necessarily just a random person on the street. I mean, that does happen. In terms of domestic abuse, I think it really boils down to making sure that the supports are there for women to seek out, but also to know that they can seek those supports out, that they don't have to suffer in silence, that people are willing to listen and are willing to help, especially when it comes to the city. But when people do say something, I find a lot of it also boils down to education for people as well. Because it's not just exclusively to women. I mean, there's also men who experience domestic abuse as well, or domestic violence as well. But you really need to try and find a way to educate people, by and large. Because education is what really addresses a lot of these issues. I find the more you know, the better off you are, and then you can identify things. To give you an example, I used to work with, there was a lady at the front desk at my workplace, and one day she came in with a black eye, and I used to be friends with her, and I asked her, what happened to you? And she gave the standard kind of stereotypical excuse, right? Oh, fell down the stairs. When I heard that, that just sent alarm bells ringing right then and there. And I started to talk to her, and I said, and tried to sensitively approach the subject with her and ask her, look, have you reported this? Have you done anything about it? Oh, no. She refused. Now, she was like 68, so this has been going on in her life for a long time. And the fact that she wasn't necessarily willing to do anything about it really alarmed me, because I felt just torn, because here I'm seeing this, and I want to help her. So I tried my best with that, but again, without better supports and without more education and more guidance from people who are in charge, like the mayor or the city council, is what will make a good impact on people.
Great question, and I spent 6 years on the police board, so I'm very familiar with this particular area. And the biggest thing from my perspective is the amount of additional policing we've now put into not only just teaching people about mutual respect, but also protecting particularly females throughout London through the use of police, through the use of call boxes, through the use of improved engagement and interaction. Also, there's a high need for police to receive these complaints and requests or concerns or accusations of violence with great deal of respect and sensitivity and an understanding that generally the women are right on these issues, and because they're right, they need to be treated as if they're right and investigated accordingly. And that's the only way we're going to start to change the culture and make sure people understand that there's consequences associated with irresponsible behavior.